Hello and welcome back to the Scoop with Coop. I'm of course Coop, and in today's video, I know, this isn't going to be the NBA first round recap that'll be coming out tomorrow, but instead we're going to be talking about what Jaylen Brown had to say, and I'll get a little bit more in depth about the actual X's and O's in tomorrow's video. But Jaylen Brown, he played in round one, right? The Boston Celtics took on the Philadelphia 76ers, and I thought Boston was going to take care of business. They ended up doing so for the first four games as they had a 3-1 series lead and then absolutely collapsed and lost the series 4-3. And you'd think after being one of the few teams to blow a 3-1 series lead, you would want to take some time to yourself, reflect, process your loss, do a number of different things, really. And instead, why don't we go on a live stream? I mean, that's what Jaylen Brown decided to do. And in said live stream, he decided, let's call out the officials and how they have an agenda against him. And with a real lack of maturity, point to other examples of players who have done similar moves as him, but don't get called for quite as frequently. Now, just a little bit of context on this. Jaylen Brown was already one of the most heavily called players in the NBA, with having over half of a offensive foul called per game against him, right? So he was number 2 in the league for that. And so coming into the playoffs, right, you think, all right, officiating, they tighten up. They make sure really what is a foul, what isn't, and all that jolly good stuff. But you don't adapt. You have over or close to 1.5 offensive fouls called per game, and instead of thinking, you know what, let's not keep doing that push off move, let's just keep doing it, and whenever it inevitably doesn't work, because shockingly, if you do something once and it gets called, the official's going to be looking for it again. And you go on a live stream, and when you talk about this whole season, right, and this season, it was kind of a retool year where you just refocus on things. And you have Jaylen Brown talking about how this season was one of his more favorite. Now, this was his favorite season of his career, because in this live stream, he talks and he says that it was one of his favorite seasons of his career, and how being able to be a part of this group that through the uncertainty came in to fight and compete, came into war, I'll take a team like that over any day of the week. Which, yeah, that's cool and all, but whenever previously you already said, but I'm so proud because it was my favorite year of my basketball career. Keep in mind, less than 2 years ago, this man won a Finals MVP, which is the most prestigious award in the entirety of the sport. And then say, you know what, that year, nah. When we actually accomplished something other than being a first-round exit, I prefer being a first-round exit as well as being humiliated by one of our rivals. I prefer that season over the season whenever we were one of the best 70-ish teams, like 70, I think we're on 77 champions in the NBA, right? I got to be in a very exclusive club of finals MVPs. That year, I don't care. And you know why I think he doesn't care? Because everyone, including myself, believes that Jason Tatum was the better player in that series and more deserving of winning that finals MVP. And who was missing this season? Jason Tatum was missing, and guess what? Jaylen Brown, he had an opportunity to lead a team, and that team was a first-round exit. So, to me, it just reads as a very selfish, a very loser-like, and a complaining overall series of quotes. And what's truly disgusting about this is how he followed this up with later on talking about how the refs have an agenda against him, right? A very serious claim, right? And that dead last in getting calls, and I was vocal about it. I get thrown out of some games. They keep saying, like, it's a push-off and stuff like that. You know how many players do that? That's such a common play, a basketball play. Every player does it. And so why are you targeting me? Well, they're targeting you because you're the most blatant person who does it. Because you don't have the skill to do any other type of creative dribble packages where you just use that poor left hand and just shove off of someone. And it is also a dangerous play because as you are losing, right? I don't want to say it's a dirty play, but you get Joel Embiid injured because you push someone into his knee. You, by not being skilled enough and by going on live streams and by doing this whole media tour of how you're this victim, instead of working on your left hand, which I will admit it has been getting better, right? It's better. It's not as bad, but it's still not great, and especially in the playoffs where any chance there's an opportunity, someone's going for that ball. When all you have is just doing this, like you're Derrick Henry, I mean, you're hitting the Heisman pose with it. I mean, yeah, obviously it's going to get called. And to insinuate that the refs clearly have an agenda because, as he puts it, they clearly have an agenda. Maybe because I spoke so critically on them in the regular season. So you know how they responded. Like, we're going to call every, you are going to lead the playoffs in offensive fouls. Great grammar there. And that was the response of the officiating crew, you could clearly tell. And that I actually spoke to some of the officials who said there's an agenda going on each game that anytime Jaylen brings his arm up just from reputation, just call it. Paul George does the same thing. Jalen Brunson does the same thing. It's a basketball play, whether y'all believe it or not. And this whole idea of, you know what, we lost. We failed, right? Expectations changed throughout the course of the season, and we failed. I'm the leader of this team. I need to step up. And instead of saying, you know what, I was wrong. I let you down. I didn't play the way that I wanted to. I had close to half the games of this series where I had more turnovers than assists. Instead of saying, you know what, my turnovers were a problem. I need to execute better. My efficiency wasn't great. I didn't play the way that I should have, right? And instead of making the hard decision a true finals MVP should, you go on a live stream less than a day after and you do this. And all it does is validate people like me who have critiques of your game and who don't think that you're necessarily that great. Now, I personally think you're overrated as a player. I think the Celtics moving forward should trade you because you do stuff like this in the playoffs. How many 4 out of the last 3 years, you all have been probably one of the most talented teams in the league, and you haven't executed because in the playoffs, you just shrivel up. This series, you average more turnovers than assists. Last year, you average 4 turnovers per game, right? Last year, you were pretty good with the ball in your hand in that closeout series. 5.2. Efficiency, not good one bit. Closeout game, 7 turnovers and 6 fouls. Year before that, right, when you win a championship, you know what? You played pretty well. All credit to you. You balled out. You performed how you should. You elevated. When you're called on to be a number one option the year before that, 35% from the field, 11% from three, 8 turnovers, and 5 fouls. Like, respectfully, if in the biggest moments, year after year after year, you fail over and over and over again, you can't be putting the blame on other people because if shockingly, if all of this stuff seems to keep happening, maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're the reason this keeps happening. And when it's your time to step up and put a city on your back at home, you get mollywopped and have a negative 16 plus minus, the worst in the entire game. And what's even more just truly disgusting about this is the sheer lack of accountability and how if I was a player in that locker room, just on a personal level, I would be livid. Someone who gets paid $300 million isn't taking accountability when he's supposed to lead this team and he hasn't balled out, right? You are going to be 30 years old. This is something how a 22-year-old reacts. You've been in the league. You've had your low moments. You've reached the top of the sport. approach this game and this entire sport with some grace. Be humble about it. And to insinuate that officials who are also people at the end of the day have it out for you is just loser and petty mentality. And you're already making people who have doubts about your ability to be a key cog of a championship team whenever you don't have just insane talent around you. You're making them look right. You're making me look right. In an ideal world, right, every player balls out. I want you to make me look wrong. I want you to tell me to be quiet because you prove me wrong. I want success for almost every player. And you're doing stuff like this. You're acting like a third grader whose friend got in trouble because you did something. I mean, you're acting like an elementary schooler, right? I understand that it's tough blowing a 3-1 lead. But when you have this opportunity, instead of taking advantage of it, right, you let it slip, right? Unfortunate. Handle it however you'd like. But if I'm a Celtics executive, I don't want to see you talking about how this was your favorite year of your career when we were a first-round exit and a loser. We failed. I don't want to see that. I want to, talk about, next year we're really going to run it back. Here's how I think we can improve upon things. I need to make sure that I hit my shots. And, going forward, this is a great learning opportunity. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see you talk about how, chat, you guys were awesome. Being able to talk to y'all, was great. And give you perspective of the narratives are going left and right. The narratives were that you were an MVP candidate. That you deserve all NBA. That you deserve the success that you have earned, yes. But when it comes to the playoff setting, you let those Twitch chatters down. You let the city of Boston down. And you allowed to blow a 3-1 lead when you were so clearly favored. I thought there'd be no way Philly even gets it to 6. And you blow a 3-1 lead. And I think that, if Boston wants to make critical changes, the person they should be looking at is you. Because you messed up again. You haven't learned. You haven't adapted. You've kept going with this same mentality of being a victim instead of looking at, how can we adjust? No, it's the official's fault. You know what? If Tatum didn't get hurt, that would have happened. Oh, you know what? I had to do it myself, just over and over again, year after year after year, consistently. It becomes hypocrisy, and it becomes just blasphemous to think that a different result will happen if you keep doing it over and over and over again. And you know what? We love coming up with new nicknames for players. How about we call Jaylen Brown the Insanity? Because it's insane how he thinks that magically things are going to change because of just continuously. It's sickening seeing someone who you want success for, because I want the Celtics to succeed. Right? It's better when the Celtics are good. It's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate seeing a player who can reach high highs, but just takes the easy way out and avoids criticism and just dodges accountability. But as I mentioned in the intro, we will have all of our recaps for each playoff series coming out tomorrow. This is the Scoop with Coop. A little heated, but until next time, so long, everybody.